heard my I story, you might have heard me say this, that I really decided at my very first seminar that I was going to be a national sales director. It was one of those moments where I remember exactly where I was sitting, what I was wearing, how I was feeling. It was on the arena floor. I was probably sitting by Tina.
Yeah, we were right next to each other.
On the arena floor, in Julia's unit, and it was actually the last day of the seminar, the very third day. I was listening to Allison Lamar's top director speech. She was the queen. I think God knew that I needed to see somebody in their 20s doing it big and fast, regardless of how her story ended. If there would have been somebody older or somebody who'd been the queen, but it took her 20 years, I would have had a different perspective. So anyways, it was in that moment, you guys, I made a choice. I made a decision to be all in that moment. Okay, and a choice and a decision is great, and that's one thing, but from that point on, I managed and executed that decision. Decision making is overrated. Decision managing is underrated. I learned that on a conference call with Amy Allgood recently. And so I managed and executed that decision from that point on and didn't back down, didn't change my mind after the choice had been made. Instead, I prioritized my life to give the time and energy it actually took to achieve the vision I had received. And after I debuted as a national, I kind of sat down and spent a lot of time like thinking and reflecting and being alone and just kind of processing through it. And I wrote this class about agreement to NSD, kind of the things I did well and the lessons I learned along the way. I call them my secrets to success. And one of my secrets to success is that once I received that vision, and I really just feel like it was God nudging me and calling me to the position of NSD, I protected that vision. I protected it, and I guarded it, and I kept it safe, and I prioritized it like it was like a little treasure. Even when there wasn't evidence of it coming together, I protected the vision God had given me. And throughout this event, I'm going to share with you ways that I did that, protected that vision. There were plenty of reasons to question it, plenty of failures along the way, which I'll share with you. And even times I wondered, God, is this really what you want for me? But every day I stepped out in faith and obedience, knowing that God's not fickle, knowing that. I knew, even when there was no evidence, that He's not going to give me a vision, call me to something, and then the next year say, oh, never mind, I'm just kidding on that one. I held on in faith that He was going to see it through. He was going to see the process through till the end. And often we think failure and adversity and feeling uncomfortable is like a sign that we're not where He wants us to be. You know, I get these calls from consultants and directors, oh, like, I'm just feeling really uncomfortable. This is hard. I just don't know if this is what God wants. And I'm like, no. This is exactly what He wants. It's difficult. You're feeling the pressure. He's right where He wants you to be, because you guys, He uses failure and adversity as tools to fashion us into the women He's created us to be. That's the story you heard from Pam. It's the one you heard from Julia. Those are His tools to design us into who He wants us to be. And you guys, He puts the pressure on purpose to see if we're serious. He lets us fall. He lets us fall to see, are you going to get back up again? Going to get back up again? To see if we can be trusted with the vision, and to see if we can be trusted with the lives He's going to give us. Okay, because it's not just like a one-man show. We're leading and influencing other women, and we have a platform and a stage. Can you be trusted? Are you going to get back up? That's where the strength and the resolve is born in failure and adversity and the challenge and the feelings of being uncomfortable. And so I woke up every day and decided to be all in, and most days it was the toughest decision to make. To live an all-in sort of life is tough. It's the hard way. It's the narrow path, because, you know, you don't kind of sort of parachute. You're either in the plane or out of the plane. You're never sort of pregnant. You're pregnant or you're not pregnant. Same with pursuing your God-given vision. Like, you don't sort of chase down your vision. All in is the only way you can roll. And I'm going to talk a lot about all in. It's been our area theme this year from a national area. And just my own personal pursuit and obsession this year. How to live an all-in life for everything God has called me to. And I think it means a lot of different things, especially being present in the moment for what I'm doing in that moment. Because God didn't just call me to Mary Kay, He's called me to other things, one of them being a mom. And so I work upstairs in my office, and so my 3 kids are downstairs with the nanny. And that's just how it works for us. And so there's this set time that she leaves. Her job is over. So that means I have to be down there at that exact time to relieve her and be back down with the kids. And usually when that time comes, there's still work undone, things I still wanted to do, conversations that are still happening that aren't finished, but I have to leave. I have to walk out of that place, and I walk down the hallway, and I'm walking down the steps, and I can hear all the chaos downstairs, and I have to whisper to myself. I'm like, I'm all in for my kids right now. I'm all in for them right now. And you turn the phone down, and I get down on the floor, look them in the eyes. Don't try to multitask, because I don't want to just be all in for Mary Kay. I want to be all for them. I want to be all in for my marriage. I want to be all in for my relationship with God. So I've been learning to live this all-in, prioritized life. You know, the opposite is having one foot in and one foot out. If it gets too uncomfortable, man, you're going to snatch that foot back out. But I really believe he calls us to put both hands, both feet, with our heart over the line for the vision that he's given us. And so sitting in that arena, I chose to be all in and to be obedient to the process. And then Cindy Machado asked me a question one time. I don't know if you remember this. We were in Monaco on the top director trip in 2012. You and Curtis, myself and Cliff, Julia and Seth were there, and there was another couple there. We were sitting at this really nice restaurant outside under a tent. Do you guys remember that, dine around? And we were just chatting. We had really good lattes. I don't know if you remember that part of it. It was awesome. Cindy just kind of asked me, she's like, well, what do you think it is that you feel like has brought so many amazing directors into your area? And without even really thinking about it, I just responded, I was just willing and obedient to the process. That's it. And therefore, I was in front of a lot of people and leading by example. Like, it was really that simple. I was not the most developed leader. I didn't have the most raw talent when I started. I was just obedient to the process. And that gives God the space to bring in the amazing people into your life. It just gives him the space to move within that obedience. And so I'm going to walk you through the 5 years that I was a director before I debuted as a national. I'm going to share some of my shiningest moments and then some of my worst failures along the way. So I debuted January 1st of 2007. I was teaching full-time at that time, and so my last 6 months of teaching were my first 6 months as a director, and we earned our Cadillac within that 6-month time frame. That June 30th debuted my very first offspring, Jessie Harper. So I debuted in January, and in that spring, I was planning to go back to teaching part-time. You know, health benefits, consistent paycheck, you know, I'd gone to school for that, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like trying to make it work out that I can teach in the morning and then have another teacher teach in the afternoon. I was also looking into getting my master's degree in education. I know. Like, whoever thought that was a good job for me, I don't know. Like, no. And it was like I needed to renew my license or do something to keep my license current. And the part-time teaching fell through and didn't renew my license because I really feel like God was saying, don't have a safety net, burn the ships, you are not going back here. And I wanted to stay for the safety of it, but I didn't. I really felt like God said no and just like move on from this place. And kind of like Pam said, I just had no option but to make it work. I left myself no other option, no other choice, but just to make it work. And so one of my very first leadership mistakes is when Jessie Harper was in DIQ towards the end of the seminar year. She had Deanna who wanted to go into DIQ, and I pushed too hard for Deanna to be into DIQ because it was all about me. And I wanted to first-line DIQs because I was going to break the record and be the fastest to NSD. And so I pushed too hard. Not that it's okay that Deanna wanted DIQ. Of course, sometimes that happens and sometimes people pull out. But I pushed too hard, and I never communicated with Jessie. I never communicated with her. I just figured that she should probably know that that's going to happen. So Deanna went into DIQ, never made it through DIQ, and then went back into Jessie's unit and ended up debuting with her. But about a year later, I don't know how it dawned on me, but it dawned on me the terrible mistake I had made. I ended up writing Jessie this really long letter asking for her forgiveness and apologizing and telling her that what I did wrong, and I think that mended that situation. But she never fully trusted me, and she never said it. She's still in my unit. She's still a consultant, holds parties every now and then. I don't think she ever trusted me like she did before that had happened. And there's nothing more valuable to our leadership than trust. And I learned that the hard way, but once I learned it, trust trumps everything. Even if it's not to my advantage, we choose trust first because there's nothing more valuable. So after that 6 months, earned the Cadillac, debuted Jessie. Now into our first full year, that was seminar 2008. I was all in for the trip from day one. That fall, Sarah Reifenberg debuted and Allison Davis debuted. You guys all know Allison right here. You don't know Sarah because she's not in Mary Kay anymore. So leadership lesson number 2, and this is especially for all you D personalities out there, just because you got it and I got it, and just because you took ownership and I took ownership doesn't mean everyone will. Right. And the mistake I made with Sarah and Jessie and Allison just happened to survive it. She happened to survive. Yes, she was strong enough to survive my lack of leadership as a sales director. I didn't know how to coach them, so that was one thing. I was still learning how to coach them. But here was the thing that made it worse. I was slightly annoyed that they just didn't get it. They would call me, I'm like, Just go out and do it. Like, quit bugging me all the time and having all these emotional breakdowns. Just go do it. That was my attitude towards them. If I can do this, you can do it too. So they weren't a priority like they should have been. And I think Sarah may still be a director today. Had I known how to coach her and breathe belief into her, but I didn't lead them, and I was annoyed that they wanted me to. I mean, truth be told, looking back, yeah, I just didn't invest time into them. And also, they weren't working their business. Okay, so I don't take full ownership. They weren't working personally. But so at the end of that seminar year, June 30th, Blythe Egbert debuted. And that was after our first full year, and that's the month we earned our first top director trip. And I was a future executive with 3, Sarah, Allison, and Blythe. I had already lost Jesse Harper at some point that year. Some things that could have derailed me was in July we did 12,000, which is not horrible, but that's nowhere close to 27. And then that December we did 7,000, which is the lowest production we had ever done. And again, nowhere close to 27. And I remember on December 31st, staring at In Touch, thinking, like, how is this possible? We did 7,000. We had 33 unit members because we had debuted, like, 3 directors, one after another, within a 6-month time frame. And I wanted to, like, just throw up on my computer so I would break it and it would turn off and I didn't have to look at those numbers on In Touch because we were not even close to being on target for the trip. But I did the one thing, the only thing that I knew made sense to me in that moment is I got a gold medal in January. And that personal gold medal just created momentum. It's amazing what 5 new, excited people personal people will do in your unit, create a momentum. And I just didn't allow that failure of the 7,033 unit members not on target for the trip. I didn't let it produce major setback. And I don't even know how to teach you how to do that except to say that you need to do that. Like, these failures you're going to have along the way, we just have to work through them, not allow them to produce major setbacks. Because they can cause months and years of delayed promotion. And so we're going to talk a lot about the emotional stuff and how to handle that tomorrow. I just got really good at ignoring the fact that we weren't on target. I've never been on target for anything. I was just really good at ignoring it. I'm like, whatever. And my mantra is I control the controllables. I control the controllables. If there is something I can control, you better believe I'm like wrapping my hands around it, sinking my teeth into it, and I'm going to control it. If there's something I can't control, I let it go, release it. I'm not going to give energy to it. So went on my first top director trip in September. Up until that point, I had done a very, very good job of running my own race without distraction. Okay, no one knew my name or how to contact me or wanted me to do a conference call or go to lunch or to invite me to their event, and we didn't have Facebook. I didn't have Facebook at that moment. I held my own unit meeting, always held my own unit meeting. I didn't join a studio in Dayton. There was a studio there with other directors in another national area. Almost joined that studio, didn't join it. There was a Saturday morning breakfast with a bunch of other directors in the Dayton area that I went to a couple of times. Stopped going to that. And I stopped. Quickly learned I should decline lunch invitations from this group of directors in that area. I have a very sensitive drama radar, and it was just drama, drama, drama. And so I had done a really good job of just protecting myself and running my own race. While in Germany, I was 24 years old. I was by far the youngest director there. And just being the naive person that I was just asking everyone about their goals and what they're doing and their ideas and their strategies and just trying to learn from everyone. Well, I never did that again. And so we were at Oktoberfest. Cindy, you were sitting at the table. Yes, they took us to Oktoberfest in Munich, Germany. Nothing I've ever seen before. We were in a beer tent with non-alcoholic beer. Anyway, so we're sitting at this table. Cindy, I don't know if you even heard this conversation, but I know that you were sitting there. And so I was telling Kim McClure, she was telling me about her plan to be an NSD. She had this 5-year plan. She was just like telling me about it. At that point, I wanted to break the record, Allison Lamar's record. Wanted to break the record, still was within a window of time to do it. And here's the thought that got into my head. If Kim McClure doesn't think she can finish her area in the next year and a half, why do I think I can finish my area in the next year and a half? Got into my head. So much that I had to go talk to Pam. I earned the Country Music Awards in 2008 for being the director with the most qualifieds in Pearl. So I got to go to the CMAs in Nashville. We had a free afternoon. I rented a car, drove up to Bowling Green, went to Pam's house. She had this beautiful spread of cheese and crackers and nuts, and we just sat in her kitchen and ate and snacked, and Thomas came home and ate with us for a while. And I just kind of shared with her those thoughts, and we talked about national and doing it fast and doing it strong. And it just kind of helped me process through that thought and just realize that everyone has their own journey and we can't live under this burden of comparison. Just learned how to guard my heart from that distraction, the distraction of everybody else's journey. and the distraction of what everyone else is doing. Because you might have similar thoughts that you may not even be aware of. You know, the thought of, well, if Kim McClure can't do it, why do I think I can do it? Or maybe you're waiting for like Cindy and Blythe and Tina to become nationals before you think it's your turn. I mean, what kind of thoughts are you thinking because you're comparing your journey to someone else's journey? It will steal and rob your joy. So get alone, put the blinders on, run your own race, and be crazy aware of potential thoughts that might be delaying your promotion. Okay, second full year, Seminar 2009, debuted 3 offspring sales directors, first-line offspring, Colleen Elliott. That was her first of 3. You guys, she recently debuted for the 3rd time. She's one gritty chick and very courageous. I know, Colleen's awesome. Yeah, she is awesome.
She knows awesome people, too.
So Colleen, Megan Higbee, Whitney Cunningham. I was an executive with 5, had lost Sarah Reifenberg sometime by this point. Blythe debuted a couple offspring, maybe a handful that year. We beat our best year. We finished with $700,000, earned the trip to Rome, and then at some point lost Colleen and Whitney that year. I mean, they were like in and out real quick. And so I was back down to 3, and I was learning to support my offspring sales directors, but didn't really have super effective coaching skills. And again, they weren't working their personal business. So I was an executive for like a minute, and then back to a future executive with 3 first line, a few second line at that point. Okay, next year, 3rd full year, Seminar 2010. I had only 1 offspring that entire year. Only 1. Our first year we had 4. Second year we had 3. I had only 1 the entire seminar year. And it was Sarah Light. It was a good one. If it was going to be one, it was a really good one. We did 650 again, which was lower than the 700 the year before. And it was our second big push for million. Second big push. And for the first time in my business, first time ever, I felt like we were moving backwards. I was moving into my 4th year as a director, and I had 4 first line. And here's the thought that I didn't let take root, but here's the thought that I had. Like, Lord have mercy, at this rate, it's going to take me 16 more years to become a national sales director. 4 years, 4 first line. I can't do this for 16 more years till I'm a national sales director. But I didn't spend time thinking about that. I didn't let it take root in my heart. Because remember that all-in thing? That all-in thing? That's what I kept doing. And I really believe it was that all-in mindset and obedience to the process which prevented me from turning small setbacks and thoughts like, well, if Kim doesn't think so, and oh my gosh, this is going to take me 16 years to become a national sales director, I didn't allow those thoughts to turn into years of delayed promotion. And I envisioned this. You guys, I had this vision of like just a shield of protection, and I still have this vision today over my mind. It's like God's hands, and it just covers my mind. And I have all kinds of negative thoughts, but they just bounce off. They bounce off. I don't let them take root in my heart. Because I ask myself plenty of times, like, do I really have what it takes? Do I really have what it takes to be a national sales director? I had the thought around this year, I thought, you said you were going to break the record, and you can't even maintain executive. I had that thought plenty of times. But I was really good at pushing back against them and not entertaining them, not letting them take root in my heart. And I was crazy aware of my self-talk, like crazy aware of it. And that's a part of how I protected that vision, kept it safe. I had this prayer journal, and for 6 years, like from director to NSD, I prayed in this prayer journal and like through certain prayers and affirmations each day. And one thing I prayed is that God would handpick the women who would be a part of my national area. I'm like, God, you pick it, you line it up. I want them to be the people you choose. That year in BSF, I studied the Gospel of John, and I had a very significant lesson within that year. It's a story about Lazarus. Lazarus is sick and dying, and so they send word to Jesus because he's a follower of Jesus, and so they send word and they say, come heal him, he's dying. Jesus delays for 2 days. He doesn't go right away. In the meantime, lots and lots of people are showing up on the scene to mourn the loss of Lazarus because he dies. When Jesus finally shows up on the scene, Lazarus has been dead and in the tomb for 4 days. Lots of people are there to mourn. Lazarus' sisters, Martha and Mary, both come up to Jesus and say, basically, Lord, like, we sent word, why didn't you come? He wouldn't have died. They didn't say that exactly, but, that's kind of the feel of it. And Jesus says, his reply is it's for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it. And of course, he raises him from the dead. And had Jesus not delayed, those masses of people wouldn't have been there. So his delay is always about the purpose of bringing more glory to his name. His delay is not his denial. because he delayed, so many more people were exposed to the miracle and came to believe that Jesus was the Messiah sent from God. Had Jesus not let him die, those people wouldn't have been there. And so that year in BSF, I learned that God's delay is still his perfect timing, and it's about his glory, not mine. I learned that the delay in my NSD position was about his glory. And so I began that year with an even more surrendered soul to God's timing and more peace in my personal journey to NSD. And is anyone else annoyed with God's timing? Just because I am. And I've learned in prayer. I've been on this personal pursuit also this year to more deeply understand the spiritual discipline of prayer. And one thing I've learned is that in prayer, instead of asking him to align with me and my will and my timeline and my agenda, it's about me aligning myself to him, even if that's a delay. And so I went out with Sarah Light and Chris. It was shortly after Sarah debuted. I don't know if you remember this. It was in Columbus. It was Cliff and I, Sarah and Chris. And I think what sparked this, because I told you guys the story about Lazarus and what I'd learned about the delay. I think what sparked it is Chris asked me, aren't you going to be a national sales director? And so I told this story about this, what I've been learning about the delay. I wanted to be a national a couple of years ago. And I remember having the thought that, you know what? I want to wait for the Sarah Lights that God is going to bring into my area, even if it means a later debut than I want to have. I want him to handpick the women who are going to be the foundation of this area. I don't want to do it in my own strength and power. Okay, so then also that year I reluctantly got pregnant with Ian. Cliff wanted it. Yeah. Cliff wanted it. God wanted it. Oh, Nadine Stanley wanted it. I didn't want it. And I am very, very serious about that. I did not want to get pregnant, but very reluctantly did. Feel the power. Nadine asked us, was Cliff and I were standing there with her, she asked us about having a family. I'm like, no, I'm going to wait till I become a national sales director. And you really challenged me on that. You said, you show people we can have a family and a business. That's what Mary Kay's about. She's like, you go out and show people. And God must have known, I needed to hear that. And you must have known about my power and achievement personality. I'm like, okay, it's on. I will show people. And I really believe I needed to hear that. So God worked in that. So I got pregnant with Ian just to prove something. Also that year, Cliff got a really high score in his LSAT, which began his journey through law school. We had 0 kids when he took his LSAT. We had 3 kids when he took his bar exam 3.5 years later. And that finalized career change. That year, Blythe had debuted more first line. Allison debuted Mary Cho. That's what happened within that year. Okay, 4th full year. Had Ian halfway through the seminar year, had our biggest year ever of 967,000 retail. Pregnancy has always been really good for my business. Yeah. We had tons of momentum as we finished out the year with a lot of DIQs and several on-target cars in July. And then they all fell out in July, never to return. And they're still in my unit, but just never to go on target, never to go in DIQ again. Cliff started law school, and he didn't just do law school, you guys. He did the impossible. He was in his top 3. He got a 4-point-something, and got the golden job when there's not many jobs available in the law field. He was gone from home 12 to 14 hours a day, and it was within our window of finishing. It was the most intense time of our lives. I debuted Becky Hermes that year, put me back to executive again with Becky. Didn't go on the prestige trip, but went to Maui and heard Kristen Myers talk, because they let new national sales directors talk. So she talked at the business meeting, and she talked about the importance of communicating the train is leaving the station. Okay, I had heard that before. I thought I was doing that, but something shifted in my mind. I can't even really tell you what it was. And I went from mentally working toward national to working on national. And I can't tell you what I did differently. It was just more of a mindset shift. And I really believe that put everything in motion, and then the momentum set in January. Okay, trip in September, little mindset shift, momentum showed up in January 2012. Okay, so on December 31st, okay, trip is in September, December 31st, I had 2 or 3 DIQs and 2 or 3 working on DIQ. And so we took a family vacation that last week in December, so I was flying back home on December 31st. And we had this long layover in the airport, and I spent time catching up with my DIQs and all my girls going into DIQ. And it was one by one. Nothing was happening. Nothing was going in. Things that we thought were going in were not going in. I think they all fell out of DIQ, and the ones who were supposed to go in, like, nobody did. And I'm like, happy freaking New Year. But all those girls came back, that crop, all came back in January, and that was a part of the group that kind of helped us to finish. Okay, 5th and final year as a director. NIQ, although we don't have it, it started for us in January 2012. It was after leadership in Atlanta. Pam taught her breakthrough class, which we spent, most of you were in the room there, we spent a big chunk of that day on it. The next day, spent like 4 to 5 hours thinking, planning, praying, processing. I had always been really clear. I'd always been clear, but never as clear as I was then. Never as clear as I was. And also, I never loved the journey more than I did. I was falling more and more in love with my journey and my personal journey, and was just enjoying it. Had a lot of joy in the journey. And momentum set in a way that I just couldn't control it. Like, it was just happening. It was just happening. And when you work with obedience for a period of time, it gives God the space to come and work and produce the results that I could have never done on my own. And so I did lose Becky Hermes at some point that year. And she was the last I would lose on my journey to NSD. I lost 4 first line on the way to NSD, and maybe 3 to 4 second line on the way to NSD. And I really felt just God's sovereign hand in the process, and felt his presence in a very sweet and deep way. Okay, so January, momentum hits. Sometime that spring, I had this coaching call set up with one of the 20. Okay, so you know how you have your list of 20? It was one of the 20. And, her name was on the list. We needed her. And here's the thing. She was a very well-known and well-respected consultant in my unit. No one wanted NSD more than this unit member. No one loved me more, encouraged me more than this consultant. And, okay, so that's who she was. And so we had this coaching call. I remember it very clearly. I was driving down 75 from Dayton to Cincinnati to have my unit meeting. And I had this odd suspicion about what the call was about, because some things were unraveling in her personal life at that point. And so we get on the phone, talking. She says the words, "Leah, I'm out. Leah, I'm out." Said it just like that. And like tears welled up in my eyes, and I knew there was nothing I could say. Because of this situation that was happening in her personal life, I knew she was just out. And so this was 3 months before we were going to finish. She was one of the 20, and we didn't have 21 on the list. There wasn't an extra, there was 20, and she was out. But we had built such a strong relationship of trust. She trusted me, I trusted her. She loved me, I loved her. It was all good. And our relationship at that point was so much more of a priority to me than her performance or her number on the list of 20. And if our relationship was good, I was good. I had come a long way since Jessie Harper. Okay? Didn't communicate because it was all about me. I'd come a long way. And so I hung up the phone, and I just had this overwhelming sense of peace, and I just started praying. I'm like, you've got me. You've got me. You've got me. You've got this. You've got me. And I just released it in that moment. It was gone. It was like, poof. And I went to my unit meeting, and we just kept going. And again, that's another example of setback, failure, delay, that you just can't let that stuff fester. And you just keep taking the next step. You just keep taking the next step. Little did I know that Katie Colson joined in January that year. Remember, the month momentum set in. That was January. She was the one that replaced on the list of 20. Yeah.
I know it's bad to be excited that somebody fell out of DIQ, but I was really excited.
That she fell out of DIQ?
Yes, because then I could be one of the 20.
Oh, you never told me that.
when I feel like there was 2 people that fell out of DIQ, because I had it on my wall for a long time to be one of the 20. And when they fell out and we missed our June deadline, I was like, yes, I'm prepared. But anyway,
Did you sign your agreement in January, the same month that Susan fell out? Yeah.
She fell out in the spring.
Oh, okay.
So she came in January.
January? You were watching?
Oh, it's a God thing.
It's total God thing. So it was a God thing. It was a total God thing. I mean, and there's so many backstories behind this story. I won't go into all of them, but
we were in Atlanta the same week when she came back. The reason I got back in Mary Kay, because my hours got cut at work, and
we're friends on Facebook.
I hadn't talked to her in 2 years, and she popped up on Facebook, and we had been in Atlanta the whole time. In the same week, I was just in the wrong building, a couple of buildings down, and I come home, and that whole week, my small group prayed that something would happen with my relationship
It was. Me too. So Katie replaced Susan. Not to make you a number, but Katie became one of the 20. And Katie was one of the last to finish our area. She wasn't the last, but she was one of the last. But the only one whose name wasn't on the list 9 months earlier. The only one. She came in and replaced her. And when God calls you to something, he will provide for it. You never see it coming together. I hear so many people say, like, oh, I just don't see it.
Right.
I'm like, duh.
Yeah, I know.
Like, you think you're going to see it before it happens? Like, okay, so yes, but unfortunately it's in his timing. And like I said, I'm annoyed with God's timing sometimes, but I trust that it's perfect. I just trust. I trust that it's perfect, and I trust that there's a much bigger picture. And so, like I said, I've been on a journey this year to deepen my understanding of the spiritual discipline of prayer. Read The Circle Maker recently, and I read that book for one quote, and one quote only, and I'll share it with you. Until recently, I wanted God to answer every prayer ASAP. That is no longer my agenda. I don't want easy answers or quick answers, because I have the tendency to mishandle the blessings that come too easily or too quickly. I take the credit, or I take them for granted. So now, I pray that it will take long enough and it'll be hard enough for God to receive all the glory. I am not looking for the path of least resistance. I'm looking for the path of greatest glory. And so that's in my prayer journal now, connected to some specific things I'm praying for. And you guys, I almost can't even get the words out of my mouth. I kid you not. I can almost not even say them. I'm like, God, I pray it takes long enough. And I pray it's hard enough for you to receive the glory. Because I'd rather have quick and easy. I'd rather it be for my glory. But again, I'm praying to align myself with God, not to ask him to align with me and my timing and my agenda. Okay, just a little bit more about prayer. I'm going over time.
I don't think they came here to go to bed.
So we live in this very organized society. We go to a restaurant, we order food, and we get what we order. We shop online, we order the size, the color, and we get it when they said it would be delivered. Okay? And so all of our problems are first world problems. Yeah. I'm convinced of it. Really, truly. And in BSF, this year I studied the life of Moses for the second time. Okay, it's all about the Israelites complaining. It's what it's about, their journey and how they complain about God's provision for them. And of course, we are the Israelites too. And I've been so convicted this year of complaining about my first world problems. We lived in a condo. Many of you know this. We bought a condo the month we earned our first Cadillac. Cliff and I together, no kiddos. We love this condo. We actually still have it. We rent it out. And so we stayed in this condo too long, okay? 2-bedroom, yes. Yeah, baby sleep. People are like, what color is the nursery? I'm like, laundry white. She's sleeping in the laundry room. It was a big laundry room. But so we have this condo, 2 kids. And you guys, there's a lot of reasons why. I mean, I won't go into that. But so I'm pregnant with a 3rd one. And so something snaps in Cliff's brain. He's like, we are moving. And so at that point, he's working downtown Cincinnati. My parents, my church, my small group, my friends, the girl who does my hair, the girl who does my nails, all the places I like to shop are in Dayton. He's working in downtown Cincinnati. We're like, okay, what do we do? Let's try somewhere in between. Lebanon. Exact place in between. Like, we'll just rent. And so we go out. My sister's a realtor. She takes us out one day. We're looking at all these houses to rent. I go into this house, look at it for 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, we'll rent this one. I had a bad attitude about it, really bad attitude. So we rent it, and we triple our size from our condo to this house. 4-bedroom house. It's great, but it's not where we're going to stay or be. We're going to move to Cincinnati. And I didn't even unpack or hang anything on the walls. Nothing's decorated. Yeah, I know. I have a problem. I really do. And so we're living in this house. I'm complaining about it. The yard's not big enough, and it's still not big enough, and it's got a really small closet. I can't fit all my nice clothes and my nice shoes in this closet. And so I've been so convicted this year of complaining about my first world problems. And so I start my quiet time off with thanking God. I'm like, thank you for the breath in my lungs. Thank you for clean water to drink today. Thank you for a shower and a warm bed. Thank you for heating. Thank you for air conditioning. Thank you for food on the table. Thank you for my healthy kids. And I just go through all the little things that the rest of the world doesn't have. And that helps me to get centered and enter into my quiet time in the morning. Okay, so that year, that momentum hit in January. We debuted 7 first line that year, finished our area November first with 11 first line, 9 second line, 9 Premier and Cadillac cars. The cars had been there for years. And then it was 4 months after the date that I'd really wanted. But it was God's perfect timing. That seminar carried with it the biggest failures on the scoreboard I had ever had. For the fourth time we had put our heart over the line for $1 million, we didn't finish it, and it was my last chance. We did $900,000. We didn't debut July 1st. We debuted 4 months later. And although I had wanted to finish national earlier than that, that was the first non-negotiable date that we had set. And everything was in place, you guys. Things were in place. It just didn't go through. And I don't know why. Despite every attempt and face down on the floor on my knees praying every day, it just didn't happen. And that's just not how the chips fell. It's 4 months later. We were number 4. We did $900,000. Leah Carter did $908,000, which put us at number 4, my last chance to give a top 3 speech at seminar. And so it seemed like a lot of failures on the scoreboard, and I felt the loss in a real way, in a real piercing, heavy way. I felt the loss, but I was having the time of my life. I seriously was. I was having more joy in the journey, and I just love watching our area come together with some really amazing people. I could just see so much personal and spiritual growth in my own heart and soul that it was okay. And it was just a thrilling time in my life and my business. And so many directors and nationals came up to me at seminar, and they're giving me their condolences because they kind of knew that I was supposed to finish and we didn't. And I had lost somebody in my life or something. I'm like, it's really okay. Maybe I should feel worse about this than I do. No. But yeah, so biggest failures on the scoreboard, but it was okay. And I mourned it, but then on July 2nd, it was done mourning it, July 2nd. I didn't wait for a month to be okay. I didn't wait for a year to be okay. What do you do as a leader but just continue to take the next step? What is our other option but to just take the next step? My unit needed it to be okay. My area needed me to be okay. My family and my husband needed me to be okay. So I just was okay. I didn't have time to not be okay. And so when we focus on, that takes me back to focusing on what we're grateful for, because that's the first thing I did on July 1st. Thank you for the clean water and the food and the provision and our health. You just focus on what you're grateful for, and then you take the next step. And now life as a national sales director is more fulfilling than I ever dreamed it would be. Barbara Johnson, what's her famous quote? I just don't understand why anyone in Mary Kay would not want to earn a free career car. So now my little mantra to honor Barbara is going to be, I just don't understand why any sales director in Mary Kay would not have a sense of urgency for NSD, an intention and focus on that position. And I get that maybe not everybody's called to that, but if you do feel called to it, I just don't understand why you wouldn't have a sense of urgency and intention and focus on that position. And when I say urgency, too, I want to explain urgency. I don't mean this frantic, rush-around, fast-paced life. I don't mean that at all. I just mean intentional, having a steely resolve in how you think and how you work. Intention with your vision, your habits, and what you give energy to and what you don't give energy to. That's what I mean by urgency, because we think we have time, don't we? We think we have time. We think we have time to do all these things, but our days are numbered. And the last time I saw Barbara Johnson was in Cincinnati at Career Conference. A lot of you were there. And all weekend long, she had been trying to get Julie and I to take a picture with her. And it just kept not working out. And finally, conference ends. Barbara, Julie, and I are sitting kind of in the same area. She pulls us together. Evan takes the picture on his phone. I actually had to text him to get the picture from him because I didn't have it on my phone. He takes the picture, and then we hug and say goodbye. We say, we'll see you at Epic NSD TV. I'll see you then. I'll see you in French Lick. And we all rush away. And in that moment, she had 13 more days to live. 13 more days. And she didn't know it, and I didn't know it. Nobody knew it. And if she could be here today and speak to us, I just think she would have a sense of urgency for NSD. She would say, do it now. Give it your best now. Give it your best every day. It's worth it. She'd grab your face and say, it's worth it. It's worth it. And that's what I've prayed for this event, that God would give you such clear vision and urgency, and whatever needs to shift in how you think or how you work, that this would be a turning point for more urgency for that position if that's what He's called you to.